Good evening, guys. It's Doug and
Four Towers Films.
and welcome to Coffee and a Chat Extended. This is episode 13, and tonight's episode has the Ford Nation finally stalled. Let's get into it. And it's one of those episodes, guys. We had to get the coffee in.
Well, it is Coffee and a Chat.
As soon as my co-host is ready to join, we got the coffee. Let's get chatting. Okay, Premier Doug Ford.
For those who are not in Canada, we're in Ontario. Just in case you haven't watched any of the previous and you're new to the channel, we are in Ontario, Canada, and Doug Ford. He's talking about his premier, so kind of like a governor of the state. So
I was going to say, for our U.S. friends, he'd be the equivalent of your governor. So Doug is our premier. Doug has he's been kind of like a yo-yo in a sense, with his how he's kind of carried himself. When he first come on the scene and he won the position of premier, it was during the summer, and there were.
I think it was an October election, wasn't it?
Well, it was just at the time when all the contracts were coming, educational contracts were coming due. And Doug decided to want to try and play hardball with everybody.
Unions.
With the unions.
Teachers' unions, mostly, and educational worker unions.
So for someone like myself, it kind of gave, cause for concern. Because everyone's contract was coming up, and it was like down to the 0 hour that we managed to avoid having to strike.
It came pretty close.
Yeah. So, okay, everyone kind of was.
And actually, some of the teachers actually did vote to strike.
Yeah.
So, but they, it was averted kind of last minute before they actually went on strike.
So it was,
But when he came into power, he was actually pretty somewhat popular with the province. Now he's what you call a conservative, or for our American friends, Republican.
Yes.
Leaning, so right leaning.
Ooh, is he right leaning?
And he kind of came in around the same time Trump was elected in the States, and that was kind of the populist kind of I guess not regime, but kind of thought process was kind of coming around, and that now he's not extreme right leaning, so he's not like that in a way, but he's I mean the conservatives are right leaning, but so he was fairly popular. So I guess he's been in power a while now. So and he was fairly popular in the beginning. Like his popularity started to kind of wane a little bit because of different things that he's done. Now, one of them being kind of pull and fight with the education workers and the teachers' unions, which are fairly powerful here. They're not the only unions he had issues with. I mean, at the time, there's the auto workers, which is a hugely powerful union. I'm sure they are in the States, too. They have a lot of pull. And there was a couple other unions, too, that he was having a lot of issues with.
And it was,
or at least or his ministers were.
And they all seemed to kind of like domino.
It's all around the same time.
Domino right behind each other.
All the contracts were coming up around the same time.
And
so
he really kind of tried to play hardball and say, we're not going to ratify this until this is settled.
Right.
And
he did a lot of other things that, for some people were somewhat popular.
Yeah.
The previous Liberal government, which is basically the Democrats in the States, had initially put in that they were going to have raise the minimum wage to $15. At one point, now it was sitting at $11.75 in Ontario
for a long time.
Yeah. And then so the previous Liberal government, which is the Wynne government, Kathleen Wynne government, did every few years kind of thing. Like every 2 years or so, it went up by maybe 25 cents or something. So it ended up getting to about $14.75.
Yes.
Now the next one, just before they were voted out, was $15.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I think Seattle now has. And then I believe BC might have too. There is a province here in Canada that does have 15. I think it's BC. I'm not sure though. But and so that was something the Wynne government was going to do.
Yeah.
When the Conservatives got in, or the they call them Ford Nation because that kind of goes back to when they were city councilors.
Yes, him and his brother.
Him and his brother Rob, who ended up being mayor. If you're in the States, you've probably heard of him. Rob Ford, he was mayor of Toronto for a while, and there was a huge scandal with him because he's an addict, and he had there was a lot of things, and a lot of the late night people went after him and all that kind of stuff. And he's since deceased. So, but it goes back to that when they were city councilors and stuff, and they're in an area that they were responsible for as city councilors in Toronto. They called them Ford Nation. They're like the loyal and the ones who really enjoyed the Ford brothers. So that's where the Ford Nation comes from, for those who were not from Toronto. When they got elected, they kind of canceled that. They stopped the going up to $15. So now some people were happy about that.
Yes.
Mostly the right leaning, saying, that really, what do people work at McDonald's need $15 for? Because a lot of people think that most work, say, minimum wage jobs are mostly teenagers. Yes. Now, a lot of them are, of course.
Yes.
But there are a lot of people who are not, that they might be retired, they've gone back to, Walmart or McDonald's or whatever. And, and then there's other people who, for whatever reason, are working, minimum wage. It could be like they didn't get the education or whatever the case is that make it. So you have the other side of that. Not all were liberal, because there were people who were on the conservative side too that didn't necessarily agree with that, cutting that off from the $15 minimum wage. So that you did have a lot of people on both those sides. So his popularity started to kind of take a little bit of a hit then. But it's kind of gotten worse now. But
so
there's been little things here and there for the past few years.
That
have kind of led up to this, where it was really popular at first, but then these things, the battles with the unions,
then the cutting of the minimum wage,
different things. They've done different cuts to health care, which tends to be kind of a given when conservatives get in power.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. So there's been these little things through the past roughly 3 to 4 years. And then now with the pandemic, a lot of people didn't even vote for him or didn't really like him or the conservatives at the time. At first, they really dealt with it well here in Ontario.
Yes.
Closing down things that needed to.
Exactly.
Schools, businesses, all that. And saying, very upset because in the beginning, there was a lack of PPE.
Yes.
There was all that sort of thing.
And that's something
it's really more, that's sort of a federal and a provincial thing, really.
Well, you see, that's something which, I had a really bad taste for this man, because the job that I'm in, he kind of put my job kind of almost in flux, and I have family that's in the healthcare industry. It kind of caused chaos there. So this man kind of left a bad taste with me.
Right.
I also, when I first moved to the city, I worked a minimum wage paying job.
I think most people do.
Most do.
Especially when they're younger.
Until
he moved to the city when he was 18, so we'll put that in the context.
But
he was young.
I was young, but I through luck and the right timing, I ended up where I am today.
Right.
But so with all these kind of memories, you kind of sit there and go, well, I'm not too impressed with you.
Right.
But when the pandemic first hit in March, he took a real hardline stance.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give you a second look.
Right.
I may not like your party, I may not like your politics.
Right.
But I will give you the benefit of the doubt in how you're handling this. Right. And
because in the beginning, if you think about it, he was handling pretty well.
Very well.
You know, I mean, it seemed to shut things down faster.
Yes.
Or and as a lot of people were angry at the fact of that there's not a lot of homegrown manufacturing.
No.
It's the same. I'm sure the States, there's a lot of things like that too, or in other country, where a lot is outsourced.
Yes.
And PP is one of them. And I mean, so you're having to wait
forever. Yeah.
You know, you're having to wait to get shipments from other countries. You know, mostly like from China and stuff. Yeah. Who, you know, a lot of countries outsource to. And, you know, I understand why they do that, because it's cheaper in the long run.
Of course.
They don't make what they do here. Even minimum wage here is more than a lot of people make in, say, China or Thailand or wherever else they outsource to, you know. So I get it, but then all these other countries are also needing it at the same time. Yeah. So, I mean, you probably heard of it way back in March, April last year, when there was such a shortage and everybody was getting their PPE from the same area. There was, at one point, I think, American plane or something like that. There was like a shipment meant for someplace else, and they actually kind of hijacked it. And like, in the sense that they paid more. So, like, it's perfectly legal what they did.
Yes.
You know, is it fair? Not maybe for poor countries, but because I mean, the States is tremendous buying power, so it's perfectly legal what they did. But I mean, was it fair? I mean, one of them was for us. Like, so I mean, we're not a poor country, but I mean, like, you know, 30 million people, 300 million, you know, of course. But, you know, that was happening. And so that it kind of hit home. And that's one of the things he was saying is we need to bring that back here and stop relying so heavily on other countries. And same with the vaccines. We're having to rely on other countries. And he was saying that back then. And he still kind of does.
But he's not waving
things
that.
Has changed.
Yeah, he's not waving that flag as strongly as he was earlier in this.
Well, he is, but the thing is, he's not taking the blame for it not happening yet. Like,
no, that's true.
The thing is, they have started PPE manufacturing back here, so that is something that they did. Give them that. They're working with private companies. So obviously, the private companies are the ones who are doing it. They're just helping with funding for it.
Yeah.
So that's good. So that is something that they did do.
Yes, they did.
He also said, now it doesn't necessarily have to be a federal thing, but they like to put it on the federal government.
Yeah.
We're not big, huge fans of the liberal government either, but we will say it's not all their fault in this respect. It's also how it's set up, how the whole pandemic's been set up, like how enforcement is really fallen to each individual province, not so much the federal government. But Ford has been blaming the federal government for how badly Ontario is in crapper. And it's it's not, I mean, yes, the federal government could have stopped a lot of the international planes from coming in.
Of course.
Or minimize them more than they have done. Some things, they have to get through. I mean, for cargo and essential things like that. Yeah, of course they have to come here.
Yes.
But the regular travelers not necessarily have to come here. I know some are going through compassionate grounds, like for, you know, funerals or
healing family.
And that.
Yeah.
But I think there's too many tourists still. There's still tourists, and people are actually walking across the borders too, from like the States.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're doing it the other way
course.
too. But you know, so but that. Yes, that's a federal level thing. And I kind of agree with him there. There's loopholes that need to be tightened.
Oh.
For now. We want these borders open. Of course we do. But, you know, right now, like the states are doing much better than us now because
Yes.
they're far more vaccinated
Of
than
course.
we are, so but now, like, I guess with some things he still wants to put it on the federal government, which is really a provincial thing that they could do. I mean, most of the provinces are controlling the majority of how they deal with the pandemic.
Of course, yes.
The federal government.
Well, and our premier is kind of doing like a 5-year-old. It's your fault.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. And you know what? To a certain,
which is why his popularity is really strong.
So, and we've talked about this off the air, about this a couple times. They're both equally at fault
in different ways. Because some provinces are actually doing much better.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The maritime provinces are doing much better than we are. Because of what they did.
I think, personally myself, I think Doug should have taken a more hardline stance. Not kind of this.
Well, what do you think he should have done that he did?
Well, especially with the gatherings, like we've seen nothing but it's in the news. A lot of protests, rallies. Look,
all year
long, and our government has not taken a hardline stance in this province against it. We're getting outcries from police services. It's dangerous. It could be
the right number.
You know what? And I respect that. Personal safety, I understand. But they need to show that the government is serious, and by serious, you implement fining. You show up.
Well, they're not finding everybody.
They're not finding everybody.
It will be hard to. You got thousands of people showing up to these rallies, and you've got like a handful or hundreds of cops.
And the thing is, like he's saying to us.
And these are all rallies, not just like there's. I mean, since a year ago, you had the BLM. I mean, yes, we understand it's an important issue.
Of course.
And yes, Canadians have the right to protest, Canadians have the right to rally, and all that kind of stuff. However, I mean, there is a stipulation. Our Constitution is a little different from the American one.
Yes.
There is stipulation in there that if it goes against public
health and safety,
welfare, that can actually be curtailed. So I mean, it's in our our version of the Constitution. And the thing is, I guess a lot of people, if they really wanted to, the federal government could have enacted the Emergencies Act, and they never did that.
No.
That's federal government, which means everything that they did is controlled by the federal government.
Yes.
The provinces would have no say after that part. It would all be the federal government. And then they could have restricted all movement if they really wanted to. You really wouldn't have any ability to protest. Like, that would be suspended in a sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's law. It is something that is here. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but they might.
We would have had something like they had in Italy.
But they haven't done that, so.
If they had enacted the Emergencies Act,
it'd be much stricter.
We would have had what they had in Italy.
Yes, it could have been much closer to that. Yes.
Very, very controlled, very monitored. You had to be able to say where you're going, why you're going. It
was locked down. If you guys remember seeing in the news, Italy was locked down. I mean, it's like you could only go out one person at a time to shop or medical appointments or anything like that. And if the police stopped you, you had to prove why you were out. That never happened here.
No.
I mean, at one point during the third lockdown, they did try to implement what's the police here in Ontario could stop you randomly, stop a car or a person and say, why are you out? That was overturned because technically none of the police forces would do it because even though we're under state of emergency, that was not enacted at the federal kind of level and stuff, so they couldn't constitutionally
arbitrarily
do that.
Stop you, yes.
They kind of overstepped with that.
Well, and okay, and another thing, I'm not going to take you seriously if you're telling me stay at home, don't do this, don't do that, don't go to other areas, and
like region hop
don't region hop.
People were doing it anyway.
Which people were doing it, like Doug shows up, one news conference, he's got a kind of a fluffy head of hair, and next thing you know, he shows up, he's got a fresh haircut.
Yeah, but what did he say he cut it?
And he said, I went to a dog.
His wife, I think he said, took their dog clippers.
Do
we believe it? I don't know.
No, I gotta call BS on that.
I think because it was done too well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not used to using shears, like if you ever we used to clip our dog.
Yes.
I mean, it takes a lot of hair off.
Oh.
And it looked too professional. I don't know if his wife or anything is a hairstylist or has any kind of training in that or not.
Well,
but it looked like it was done by a professional to us.
Exactly.
It didn't look like somebody who
just
really didn't have an
it.
idea of what they're doing and used dog clippers, grooming clippers to do it. So I don't know about that. And actually, it's funny. A lot of people were saying, and he said that. Like,
there was a video.
Saying, how'd you get the haircut? And he's like, oh, it was my wife using dog clippers. And like, yeah, we'll post pictures of it. Like, if you're going to claim that, especially if you're somebody like Doug Ford, who's premier, you might want to back that up, because people are like, oh, how come you can get a haircut and we can't?
Meanwhile, like the mayor of Toronto,
his hair is long.
His hair is long. Yeah. You have lost all sight of John Tory's ears.
Oh yeah, his hair is long.
His hair is very long.
Trudeau's comes and goes. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. So we don't know what he's doing. Yeah,
it's kind of like it kind of looks like the hairstyle of bad editing. 1 minute it's short, 1 minute it's long.
It's not real short. It looks like it's trimmed.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look like it used to be. It's longer. But sometimes it's trimmed, so they might be trimming it because it doesn't look like it's like real short like it used to. But and of course he's in Ottawa, so I mean, at the time there's different restrictions.
Yes.
Like we were here in the GTA, was completely locked down, so nothing's open. Like except for curbside pickup and stuff, delivery. But salon's not closed. Where Ottawa was open for that, so at one point. But it doesn't look like he's had a haircut recently.
No, not for a while.
That we've seen, but
and
it has. Which of course adds to people's kind of distrust of him and dislike. I mean, I think because people are disliking or distrusting what you're saying, you might want to back up that your wife used dog clipper, like maybe video it. I don't know. You shouldn't have to, but because you're not allowing anyone else to do it. Yes. You might want to say this. I'm serious. This is what we did.
Yeah. See,
so people know you're telling the truth.
Here's the picture of my wife with the doggy clippers
and actually cutting my hair. Like, you might want to do that. It's like people don't believe him.
And it's his cabinet has just kind of been really wishy-washy. Like his one minister taking off to the Caribbean.
Yeah, that was a problem.
And
they said they didn't know about it, but it's come out that they did know about it because I don't remember which news source or one of the other parties or something like that came out and they released the video, or not video, the emails that has said there was conversations between them via email. You want to keep something quiet, don't put it in an email, someone will find it. And basically they knew he was leaving and then they just lied about it to people that they didn't know he was leaving.
Well, because this man staged his social media to make it look like he was still here.
And like in a Zoom call, you could hear the ocean. Yeah. And somebody even said that in the Zoom call, which they didn't release. Like, I hear the ocean. It sounds like he's at the beach.
Yeah.
And he was. He was at the beach.
So when your premiers...
In the middle of the pandemic, Florida's supposed to be locked down.
When your premier's kind of flim-flamming, and his party's kind of flim-flamming, your trust and belief in what the leader of your province,
right, starts to erode.
It starts to erode.
Sure.
You know, like, well, if Doug can do it, why aren't I doing it?
Well, and so that's the thing. If you're seeing multiple politicians do this,
and no repercussion,
and this
really.
doesn't seem to be like, well, I think he stepped down. I think he's still a member of Parliament, but I think he stepped down from one of his posts.
I believe so.
And I think another one did too, because they had pictures of him in an airport with his family and his daughter, and that I think they went to Florida on like a spring break. So it was like March or so when he went. This was like a year ago, not this past March, but you know, and then like he's not even the only one. I mean, there's other like cabinet members and stuff like that. They're telling us to stay home.
Yes.
Don't go anywhere. Don't reach and hop. Don't do this. And yet you're on a beach in Cancun and you're in Florida and you're doing this. So yeah, of course people are not going to trust you anymore because you're basically doing do as I say, not as I do.
You know.
And then they'll say, oops, my bad. I went on a trip when I shouldn't have, and I knew better, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, it happens too much. And I'm not saying the federal government's not doing it too, because I'm sure they were too. I think that a couple did. I just can't remember who. At the moment, it's any level of government. Of course. Like on either side, you know, but the point is, if you're an elected power, you have to hold on to that power, and the only way to do that is to actually do what you say you're going to do, and not, oh, it's your fault, oh, don't go on a trip, but I'm going to go on a trip.
Yeah, well, that's it. And we talked about this. You're in the public eye, your life's in a fishbowl. It's in the
spotlight,
You know, so there is a certain degree of checks and balances you always have to maintain. You have a personal image and a public image.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you're trying to say, you know, I'm a tough guy. Ontario first. Let's get
people for the people.
That
was their slogan when they got elected, and you still see it for the people. Well, the thing is, at first, it seemed like some stuff they were doing was for the people.
Yes.
You know, in the good of the most people, but then you start to see things and not so much for the greater good and more for your big business or if they're business owners. The Fords do own a business and stuff like that.
That's correct.
And, you know, so I mean, they've got money. You know, that's fine. They work hard or whatever, but that's kind of not the point. I mean, you can't run on a platform for the people when you're actually kind of undermining the people.
Exactly.
In that sense, you know.
And well, look, he's not really taken he's his position, even in question period, has where he used to take a more hard line. This is what we're doing. Look at what we've accomplished.
Yeah.
Now he's kind of being kind of snarky and touchy a little bit.
What I see he's kind of reverting a little bit
to his old behaviors.
Like that. He kind of was like that when he first was elected. Yeah. A little bit snarky and a little bit bordering on rude to some other people. I mean, they will get called on it in question period and stuff for being rude. Like they're allowed to debate and
of course.
To disagree. They're not supposed to be like, oh, you're this and you're that kind of thing. And I find can be a little bit like that. He did that to
Andrew Horwath.
Andy Horwath is leader of the NDP for, you know, which there really isn't an equivalent in the States. I guess it'd be like Democrats, but a little bit more to the left than they are. But, you know, but he's been like that with her. She's been very vocal against him. I hear more from her than which the Liberal Stephen DeLuca. I think he's the leader of the Liberal provincial party here.
And
she's been a lot more outspoken to him.
She has taken.
She's the leader of the opposition now, so.
She has literally taken to the pulpit every time, you know, and to literally nail him to the tree for his inadequacies and he's Doug's too slow in getting this out too.
Well, because like you're talking about, too slow.
Yes.
One of the big things which has really plummeted his popularity is how he dealt with the long-term care homes.
Oh my
It
God.
lands on the provincial, not the federal government to take care of them, which, long-term care homes, or senior living and that kind of thing. And with the first wave, it was pretty bad.
Oh, it was horrendous.
Like so many died, so many were infected and all that kind of stuff. So he said, that has to stop. We're going to build an iron ring around these homes, and so that to protect seniors and disabled men in these communities. Well, okay, that's fine. Second wave comes along. Well, it was no better. There's still tons of them in long-term care homes getting sick.
And Doug was still building the iron ring.
And supposedly the whole iron wall was still being built, and they were called out on it.
Yeah.
And part of the problem, what they found out is, because there's a shortage of nurses and PSWs and doctors and that who work at home. So you're talking about 1 or 2 to hundreds of patients per floor.
Yes.
So, and they did nothing about funding. And now this is not a new thing.
No.
This is an ongoing problem. It's happened
ever since we were kids. Yeah.
For years. So it's not just one government problem. All of them have neglected whoever been in power. So they were saying what they've done is some of the PSWs were hopping from home to home. So if they got infected, they were taking that to keep home.
Yes.
They themselves might have been okay, but of course, people were sick or older.
Yes.
They may not be in one home. Everybody was infected except one person, and that was the second wave.
Yeah.
The third wave, which we're supposedly still in now, wasn't as bad. And why it wasn't as bad? Because most of them have been vaccinated now.
Course.
So that's dramatically dropped the number of older seniors getting sick. Now it's mostly the younger people because they're unvaccinated.
Yes.
But that was part of the problem with Ford, where his popularity started to drop. Because he's saying, we're going to build the iron wall, we're going to hire more healthcare workers, we're going to do this, we're going to provide more funding, and none of them have seen it to this day.
Yeah.
Because that's always something that every government seems to say, we're going to fund, we're going to add more to this, we're going to add more, and they never do it.
And so, like, Andrew Horwath is going, Premier, where is it?
Right.
Show us.
Yeah, where's his iron wall?
Provide us. And every time they do the press junket with the media, this is what she's hammering home. Like he's been inept with this. He's slow to make decisions, and you're seeing that more and more.
Yeah.
He's dragging out the dogma. We're doing the best we can. We need to focus.
Well, because that's what we heard for so many times.
Yeah.
We've got the strictest lockdowns in Canada. We've got the strictest lockdowns in North America.
Right.
He said that.
Yes, he did.
It's like, really?
Really?
I don't think so.
No.
I'm pretty sure other places, Maritimes for one, are a lot stricter than we were. And even the out west provinces, like BC and Alberta, like they're having a little bit of problems now.
Yes.
Like especially Alberta. But even, per capita, they're actually doing worse than us. Ontario is the most heavily populous province in the country.
That's true.
And then Quebec's next. But per capita, like we might have more cases here because we've got like 14 million people just in our area, and then Alberta. But per capita, they're actually doing worse. But that wasn't always the case.
No.
They actually were doing pretty good for a long time.
They were doing very well. Yeah.
So, but and of course, different premier.
And it's his
another conservative.
And
a lot of people aren't happy with what he's doing either. Next, they're saying he needs to step down. I've been hearing about that, and actually, there's been calls now for Ford to step down too.
And they're getting louder.
Oh, you bet. Yeah,
they're getting louder. Yeah. Like his latest blast was at the teachers' unions, saying it's their fault.
That's one of the latest things. Yes, that schools are closed.
The schools are closed. Yes. Excuse me, Premier, sir, you made the decision.
Right. teachers don't have control over if schools are open or closed.
Because
You do.
you made that decision.
Yeah.
You told the teachers, oh, guess what? You're teaching online now.
Right.
For the foreseeable future.
Right. Right now, there's an indefinite, like here in Ontario, it's indefinite right now. There's no end date to school closures. And I mean, here the school ends at the end of June.
June, yeah, that's the end, exactly this.
End of the school year here.
End of our school year.
But yeah, I mean, that was over this past week.
Yeah.
Ford said to the teachers unions, it's their fault that the schools are closed.
And like the teachers unions went, what? Excuse us?
They also said, because this is something Ford said, or Lecce, which is his
our education minister,
said was that one of the teachers unions, or both the teachers unions, there's several teachers unions here, actually filed an injunction in the courts to keep the schools closed, because Ford supposedly wanted to reopen them because the numbers have kind of come down a little bit. They're still really high here in Ontario. They're over 2,500, I think, today.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's daily, so it's not just like once a week, it's every day. You know, and I forget how many active cases there are, quite a few. And that's what he's basically saying, is that he wants to reopen schools, but the teachers filed an injunction with the courts to have them stay closed. Now, both the Ontario Secondary School Federation and the Elementary School Federation both said, we've heard of nothing about this, and no, there is no such thing as an injunction to keep the schools closed. So that's basically an outright lie.
What they'd like to see is that the students be get vaccinated.
They actually would like to see them get vaccinated before school. So whether it happen or not, because right now the vaccines are not cleared, I don't think. I think Pfizer just got cleared to 12 years old, but not below that as of yet.
And so
not here anyway.
He's just Doug's like literally got one foot in the grave and the other foot slipping, really.
Well, this is the thing. Do we really think he'll get elected again? I don't know. His popularity's really dropped.
You know,
and these are people who used to follow him too. I mean,
yes,
it's the people who never voted for him, probably wouldn't vote for him anyway. But there's also conservatives who don't want to vote for him because all these reasons, but also because there's people who think open it back up again.
Yes,
because it's really the big box stores that are still open, you know, manufacturing's still open, but the small mom and pop stores have pretty much for most of the year have only been able to do pick up and delivery. And so he's hurting those businesses. Now, I mean, like as we said before, we understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they've never really been a big driver of this, so I think they're targeting the wrong area.
Well, this is
perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we've said in a few episodes.
Before. You know, a lot of people agree with us with that. That you know, they just might be targeting the wrong things. You know, and even other parties have told them that. You keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, but you get the same results.
You know, that's a famous Einstein quote. You know, like
that's the definition of insanity. Is doing the same thing, expecting different results.
But really, he needs to stop yapping off about
and actually do something.
And you know, people are now at the point. I think they want to see results. You're talking out your backside.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, but shut the hell up. Do the job. Show that you're going to get us out of this.
Right.
And maybe you might be able to salvage your popularity a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, or it could be too far gone. Really.
It depends on what he does. I forget. I mean, one thing I don't agree with what he's doing now is attack ads. I mean, I think we're about a year out from the election.
Yes.
Maybe.
And there's already.
And we're already getting like campaign style ads. We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, shouldn't your focus be on, you know, helping businesses, helping people who've lost their jobs,
Yes.
basically, because the businesses are having to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, maybe doing what you can to get more PPE or vaccines, or I mean, yeah, I know the federal government is for the ones who get it, but from what we've seen, it's really not. It's not just a Canada problem with vaccine shortages. It's a worldwide thing.
Of course.
I know a lot of people here, at least, want to blame Trudeau for the lack of vaccines, although we are getting them now. But for a long time, we are far behind other countries. But because we don't produce it here, and you know, but that's really, if you really think about it, it's people who just don't like the Liberals who want to blame Trudeau. We're not big Trudeau fans either, but we see it's not really his fault. They bought the vaccines. It's the manufacturers and send these vaccines. It's really their fault because a lot of other countries. I mean, I heard a while ago even that Europe sued Pfizer and Moderna because they weren't getting those share of vaccines either, and they helped fund the making of it.
Of course.
Australia hasn't gotten everything that they need either. No. So I mean, it's not just us. So you can't blame Trudeau for that. No. You know, for the fact that we haven't had the vaccines that we wanted. You know, but the distribution is a provincial thing. Yes. So the federal government gets it and sends whatever to the provinces that need it. And that's up to the premiers and that to distribute it, or cabinets to distribute it.
And that whole thing, I'm sorry, it's like a wonder wheel of confusion. It's kind of like, okay, we're going to achieve this by this date, this by this date. And it's like,
well, they're hoping.
You know.
Yeah.
But it seems very unrealistic, you know, when our vaccine the amount of vaccine we have to the goal, the dates they want to try and achieve by, they don't seem to they don't
match.
They don't match.
Well, because again, if you're looking at what they're saying now, Trudeau or the Liberal government, federal government is saying they want to have what they call a one-dose summer. So they want to have 75% of all Canadians vaccinated at least one dose by summer, those who want it. And then at least 20% of those who have the first dose get their second dose.
Yeah.
Ford is saying he wants a 2-dose summer. So that means he wants most people to have their second dose for summer. Now, again, I mean, like you said, is it realistic? A lot of people are saying it's not really realistic for that because it really depends on how much vaccine comes here in that time frame. I mean, we're not the only province, so not all of it can come here. You know, I mean, Alberta needs them, BC needs them, Saskatchewan's having problems. I mean, all provinces need them. You know, so we only get whatever share we can get out of what's all sent here. So, is it realistic to say a 2-dose summer? Maybe, depending on how many vaccines are coming in. Yeah. Because now we've paused, Ontario at least has paused AstraZeneca. They're not using it anymore right now.
There's been too many questions over it.
Well, yeah, because of the blood clotting issue.
Yeah.
I believe Alberta has paused it, so is Quebec. I don't know if any other provinces have at this point, but these ones have.
I think that's the only. Those are the only three.
I think. I'm not sure about that, but I haven't heard of any others at this point. But now there's questions what to do with the AstraZeneca, because we just got another shipment in of about 250,000, and we get another shipment next week. So what do we do with them? We're not using them here at the moment. They might use them for the second dose shots for those who are willing to take them. Yeah. But again, that will be provincial. I think it's not the federal government that's caused this. It's the premiers of these provinces that caused this. Mm-hmm. So it's not even Health Canada that says that. They say it's safe. They prefer the other two vaccines.
Yes.
But there is a lot of questions regarding safety. So I mean, you know, if you're willing to take the risk to take the AstraZeneca, or if you already have, you know, it's fine.
Of course. Good.
You know, because chances are you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, that's not a federal thing.
No.
That's a provincial thing. But they the Ford government likes to blame the federal government for it. It's like it's not distribution; it's at the province level.
Exactly, and
so
let's cut all the BS. Let's do the work. He needs to do the work.
Well, so the newest things that are really plummeting his popularity are these ample shutdowns. I mean, Ontario's been in shutdown for the better part of a year. I mean,
13 months.
It not totally, but it really shut down in March a year ago, 2020, and then it opened up somewhat in the summer for a few weeks, and then it was kind of shut down again, then kind of opened back up, and then we just have patios for restaurants, and then a week or two here or there you just actually sit inside the restaurant, and that. But salons only were allowed to open in the summer of last year, and for a while, and then once they really went back to lockdown, they've been closed ever since. So that's also part of the problem with its popularity is those people even who voted for him and for these rallies. There's another big one this weekend in Toronto. Thousands of people protesting. I mean, it's Canada-wide. Have been saying, that open things back up, let us live our lives, and you're killing small businesses. So in a way, you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place.
Oh,
because it's not necessarily a good thing to open up everything,
but you want it.
But you also don't necessarily want to keep it closed either, because you're also hurting businesses. I mean, some things could be opened up, like they've mandated all outdoor activity, like playgrounds are allowed to be open, but basketball courts and golf courses and all that are shut. You're not allowed to use them. People will use them,
of course,
but you're not supposed to be using them. And basically, I understand what he's going for. He's saying he wants to shut because they're trying to limit mobility.
Yes,
they're trying to limit people coming together at more than 5 people or outside your household or whatever, because you see them. There's a lot of them gather when they're playing basketball or baseball or anything like that.
See,
and that's what they're trying to do.
I get the theory. I get the theory.
Yeah.
But let's look at in the practical of this. The more you tell me not to do it,
well, they're doing it anyway.
They're gonna do it.
And they are.
And they are. Like even today, before we went on the air, we were out in our city doing errands, and we saw young men playing basketball. Playing basketball.
They actually hopped the fence to school.
It was
private school.
Private school.
Hopped the fence.
They hopped the fence
to play
basketball.
Which is actually against my law right now.
It's
actually private property too, so it's not a park that they went to.
Groups of kids sitting together, walking together. No one,
No, not many masks. Some people are wearing masks, but a lot are not.
Everyone's still bandying about it's COVID fatigue. Fatigue.
Well, it's been over a year now.
Yeah, and I understand that, you're tired of all this, but it's right now, it's the necessary evil we have to deal with. Follow the rules, wear your mask, stay, if it's more than 5, no.
Well, really, you're not even, until stay at home order, you're not even supposed to be hanging out with people outside your house. But they are, And then I understand the flip side. I understand what people are saying.
Yes.
That, and even the experts are saying this, that it's not zero, the transmission for outside. It's not zero, but it is low.
Yes.
There's less likely to transmit this virus outside. So if you're on a playground or whatever, you're less likely to get it, especially if there are people wearing masks, like who are playing basketball, stuff like that. Not all, but some are. But it's less likely to because you're outside.
Of course.
So I get what they're saying too.
Yeah.
And I mean, you do kind of need things to do, and the weather's nicer, and here where we are, the warm season's very short.
Yes.
So
yes, it is.
you want to get out and have some fun. So I mean, you really can see both sides of this.
Of course.
It really is a hard decision. What do you do? I mean, I think you can have some things open and really, if people would actually follow and say like no more than 5 playing basketball, and then everybody else kind of, if you want to visit or watch, stand back from them or whatever, then maybe that's okay. Golf courses, I really don't see a problem with them being open because you have to stretch them out between tees, so that you give everybody time to get ahead of you. So I really don't see a problem with them being open. I don't really get why they're closed. Even really patios with restaurants. I mean, they did a good job. They're really like there might have been one outbreak I've ever heard from a restaurant at all.
Yeah, it wasn't even in our area.
It was like Oakville, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
I mean, and that was back when they were allowing indoor dining. And that was something that they did. I mean, they obviously did something wrong there.
Yes.
I mean, most restaurants there was never even a problem with. No. So I don't understand like why you can't have the patios. Because most people will fall over going to the restaurant. They're getting up to put their mask on. They're staying there. Yeah. And it's well ventilated outside on a patio. And they don't have a lot of seating, most patios. So I don't know. I think I understand the reasoning behind it, but then it's also kind of like when you listen to the actual experts, they're saying kind of like some doesn't really make sense either.
Well, and that's also the crux of it too.
Which is why a lot of people are kind of like,
Well, even the medical experts are saying he's not listening to us.
No, he's only listening to certain medical experts. He said he is listening to medical experts, but I think he's only listening to 1 or 2.
Well, when a handful of the medical community, and they're all saying the same thing.
And then you got 1 or 2 that are saying different. That's who's listening to.
Yeah. So it's
that
like.
Could be a problem.
And it is a problem.
Yeah.
Instead of getting the spectrum of the medical industry, and get their input and information, you're listening to 2 that are kind of along the same
along your lines.
That's
who's thinking. That's who's listening to.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous stuff. Because you're not getting a full picture. Like when he first closed playgrounds.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone kind of snapped back.
Which is the only thing is backtracked on.
And Doug said, okay, we'll back off it.
Because he had major pushback. Because it makes no sense to close playgrounds.
Like from family, like parents with young kids, medical community.
People were taking kids anyway, but it just didn't make sense because even a year ago they were saying there's not a lot of evidence. I mean, yes, the transmission rate's not 0 outside, but it's much lower.
Of course.
Than it is inside. So
of course,
it really just didn't make a lot of sense.
Like
a lot of things he's doing doesn't make a lot of sense unless you go with it that is a capitalist and he is a business owner, so he's protecting
his interests,
businesses and his interests.
Yeah.
And so that's where again a lot of people are having fault with him is the fact that he's not really protecting the small businesses. No. I mean, even they're saying implement paid sick days here in Ontario. There's no such thing as a broad paid sick day in Ontario. It's really up to businesses that offer it. And he said there was a federal program, and which I think is still in effect, for sick days. Like if you're diagnosed with COVID and you can't work, you can get like a wage subsidy type thing. But it doesn't kick in right away.
No.
It takes weeks to get, and you have to go through all this stuff to apply for it. And so they're saying that's not good enough. Like, what if you don't know if you have COVID or not, and say you've been exposed, or you might feel off and wait for your test, so you don't want to go to work? Well, a lot of people don't get paid if they don't go to work.
Yes.
So there's what they want to put at the federal provincial level is these paid sick days to kind of cover that, and it be immediate payment.
Yes.
Potentially paid by the business owner, which is what the government wanted, or it may be temporary for right now, so that people wouldn't go into work sick, which is really what's been keeping this going too. At a lot of workplaces, a lot of people are still going in sick because they can't afford not to.
No, that's the
But he kept no. There's a federal one. There's a federal one. That's good enough. Doesn't make sense for us to do it. And so of course we're like, there's a huge gap here.
Ooh,
with
shoot.
It. So finally, they did agree to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, but it's temporary.
3 days.
Yeah, it's 3 days. But it's only temporary. It's not a permanent sick day leave.
No.
It's only until this pandemic's done.
But I think it's, it's kind of insulting, like, there are people that have been working day one, boots on the ground every day in, day out for the entire year. And, and they don't have the means to take sick days. I'm pretty lucky that I have sick days, but say like someone like yourself in the industry you're in, you don't have the sick days. Or
a lot don't. Like if you, we're not even just talking about frontline healthcare workers, but we're talking like ones working in grocery stores or,
coffee shops,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They
don't actually get sick days. No. So, they're making minimum wage for the most part, or just over. Yeah. And they don't get sick days. So, if they want to work, and they're not all teenagers who work there, which seems to be like this misconception that it's all teenagers or people who aren't very motivated or something in life. I don't know. I hear that a lot, that it's either teenagers, and if you're working minimum wage jobs when you're older, well, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you go to college? Yeah. Or why didn't you better yourself? Or why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? Well, that's kind of judgmental. And it's also, you don't know the circumstance.
Don't comment.
College and university is not cheap.
Woo, not
it's
here.
Not free.
Oh.
It's very expensive, especially university. So if they didn't come from a family with money, granted, I know there's people who've done it. They've worked multiple jobs. I worked through college too, but a lot of people can't do that.
No.
So I'm not going to go to somebody, you've never gone to college, and say, why don't you go to college? Why don't you various, or trade school too? Trade school is also not free.
No.
I agree there should be more people going into trades, but one, they may not have the ability to do it, either scholastically or even like manual dexterity. It takes
the physicalities,
skill sets to do these things. Maybe they don't have that. I don't know. So why assume that they chose to because they're lazy? But you see that so much that they're just lazy. They didn't do it. But so that's why things like sick days or whatever help them, because they're pretty much living below the poverty line.
Oh,
you're making
of course.
You're below the poverty line.
Of course.
And it's, instead of judging them, why you should be making $15 or $20 pouring coffee, well, then you've obviously never done the job.
No.
It's not that easy to do.
No.
Is it as skilled as like a doctor? Of course not. No. But it's not that easy to deal with people who are not always nice to you.
Yeah.
But we work jobs like that.
Oh.
Customers can be pretty rude.
Oh.
And it's tough. You're being pushed, you got 30 seconds to serve, or else we're on your butt, all that kind of stuff. Not that easy to do.
And then you get toxic customers that are in, and they treat you like absolute garbage,
Yeah.
And, this.
So, I'm not going to judge them for working.
No, of course
Who's going to pour your coffee if they're not there,
exactly.
That kind of thing. And a lot of people say, like, with the self-checkouts and stuff that the Walmart and other places have now.
Yeah.
A lot of people disagree with them because it takes jobs away. Well, there's your minimum wage paying jobs again.
Yeah.
So, if you want to protect the job so much, well, why not give them paid sick days or better raise or something,
Exactly.
But
well, that's it.
But for Ford has so been adamant against it. I mean, he's been pushed to do it for 3 days. It's okay,
well,
if you get COVID, you're gonna need more than 3 days.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna call BS on it, because that's just smoke. He's just blowing smoke. See, I did it.
He's giving, yeah, exactly.
I did it.
But yeah, extra moral ashamed into doing it.
You got.
But it's not for.
No, you got pushed to do it, so you came up with the crappiest low end deal you could create.
You could get, right?
You know,
to try to. He's saying it's to bridge the gap to the federal, but it'll take some time to get that federal aid. It's not like, and you know how government works is slow. You know, so I mean, it'll take a while for them to get it. You know, but
so it's like.
And the problem is, then they act like it's such a big reward. See, look, you got 3 days. Oh, yay! But it's not even a full wage.
No,
it's not full wage even. So
it's like what, $500?
Yeah, something like $500.
You know,
most people make more than that in a week.
Oh,
so
you know that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, but according to him, that's good.
I did it for you.
I did it for you.
You know,
but these are all reasons
his popularity is plummeting. Exactly. So. He had okay. He had some highs.
Yeah. And he has done some things. Like, we'll give him that. You know.
We will give him that, and he kind of resonated what people have said for a long time. We need to bring certain things back to this country.
True. It's true.
Because
we need to bring more manufacturing back here. You know, I mean, yes, of course, it'll cost more.
Of course.
You know, but it would actually create jobs.
Of course.
We won't have to worry so much about relying on other countries.
Yes.
I mean, now, for a long time with the vaccines, we were getting them from Europe and India mostly, but India needs their vaccines now too, because they're in really bad straits. And so now, because the States has really upped, I think they're sitting at about 50% of their adults vaccinated, not fully, but at least one, I think.
Yeah.
So now, because they've been working with us in Mexico to help, because they produce it in-house,
of course,
to ship some to us, because they want the borders open with us too. We're their biggest trading partner.
Yes.
And a lot of tourism, most of the tourism in the States comes from Canada.
Here. Yeah.
So, and same with us, like, because we're attached, so we're neighbors, so of course, you know, makes sense. So in order for that to happen and help both of our tourism industries who suffered through this.
Oh, terribly.
That's one of the reasons that they want to try working with us to help get us vaccinated, same with Mexico.
Yes.
You know, and then the rest of the world as well. But because some of the other countries make their own too, so
of course,
and they're doing okay, but they're getting there.
Well,
but
like we talked about one time before we went on air, how when we were young,
right,
there was manufacturing.
Yes, there was.
And it said made in Canada, and it was made here.
Like, we even made vaccines here.
Like, and then once there was a change in our government, that changed. Manufacturing here in this country, gone.
Well, I mean, it was the 80s, I think, late 80s, when we used to make vaccines here.
Yes.
I think it was from Kana Laboratories. It was sold off by the Mulroney government, was conservative, and it's never come back. Now, granted, people could say, you can blame just conservatives all you want, but there's been 15 years of liberal dominance for a while with Pradhan and stuff. Oh, believe me, I know, they could have definitely brought it back, you know, but they never did. And, you know, so it's not just the conservatives' problem. It's the liberals too. They could have done something as well, you know, and they didn't, you know, and same with this new liberal government. They didn't, they could have brought it back, and they haven't. And I mean, that's a problem.
And see, that's
why we say it's not just one government that's the problem here.
It's
pretty much all of them.
It's been a generational government issue.
Yeah, sure it has.
And when he spoke about this, bringing this back, I'm like, okay,
good, let's
get it back. Let's do it. Where is it?
There is. I have heard of two things. One is the Canadian homemade. I think they're out west.
Okay.
They were needing funding from the federal government.
Yes.
They actually, I think it's called Novavax, which is Canadian. It has not been passed yet or anything. They're hoping by the end of this year. It's proven to have good results. They are testing it now, but it won't get full through like Health Canada. They figure till the end of the year, so a lot of people are going to be vaccinated by then. But they think this is going to become an ongoing thing. You might still need to be vaccinated, maybe every even few, like you do with flu shot. They do think it's going to be called endemic, so which means it's never going to fully go away.
You'll need to get that booster.
But but last I heard of them is because they're not getting enough funding from the federal government. They're thinking of pulling out somewhere where they will get funding. Yeah. So again, it's the same problem. So again, now that's the Liberal government doing that.
Yeah.
And then there's another deal that they heard of a French company called Sanofi from France has agreed, unless this deal falls through, of coming here and producing vaccines here on our soil, so that we have homegrown made vaccines, or that they're made in-house. We're not having to rely so heavily on other countries, which we should be. I mean, a lot of people here are very frustrated by that. The fact that we have to rely so heavily on other countries for things like that, and we shouldn't be. We're a free workers nation, and we shouldn't be relying so heavily on other countries for that sort of thing. I mean, I know that it's part of the world thing, but I mean, really should rely more on ourselves.
Well, that's it. And like I said, and we both said, when he mentioned this, we were like, okay, great,
good, yeah,
let's get it going.
I haven't seen it. Well, there's been, but like I said, that's the latest part of it.
But there hasn't been that big machine kind of roll in and just kind of get going.
Well, like I said, with the Novavax, it needs more funding.
Well, and see,
but that's not a Ford thing.
And it's
not our province, I don't think. I'll have to check that. I don't think it's our province. I think it's out west.
Yeah, it was BC.
I think it's BC.
It was BC. I've always kind of said we need to have Canadian made. We need to get manufacturing here. We need to be more self-reliant.
Yeah.
I've always felt that.
Yeah.
And I know you feel the same. We need the government to get on board with this. Enough lip service.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Enough talk and smoke and making political pitches, trying to pad your next campaign trail, Well,
that's what we're saying. These it's not the time.
No, not now.
I don't want to be saying attack ads. The federal government hasn't done this and they haven't done that. Well, you haven't done much either, lately. So I wouldn't be talking.
Well, that's it.
I mean, I just don't want to say it right now. We're way out from an election.
Oh.
So, let's focus on getting through this pandemic before we start trying to get reelected.
Well, exactly. If you want to put it into like a kind of like a real, like a kind of vernacular, let's clean up our own house.
Right. Well, do something to prove you should be reelected.
Yes.
Instead of saying, see, this is what the federal government hasn't been doing. This is what the federal government hasn't been doing. Well, you're the provincial government.
Here's what you're not doing.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yes.
Why don't you prove you should be reelected instead of saying, oh, this is what the federal government hasn't been doing.
Exactly.
It's not going to make me vote for you by constantly attacking the federal government. I mean, you're two different entities, so.
I find I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated.
It's very frustrating. You see why people are frustrated. By this whole thing. I mean, especially when you look to our neighbors.
Yes.
Not even just in the States, but like in England and other countries where they are doing far better with immunization. And you're saying, you look at like Disneyland just reopened again, and Disney World, and now Universal Studios in Orlando there's no masks, and because they've got more people vaccinated there and all that kind of stuff, and then you see, oh gee, our lockdown just got extended another 2 weeks.
And they canceled all the
and
summer
they canceled
activities.
all our major summer events. And so none of our major summer, including a major summer festival, we have there's an amusement park here called Canada's Wonderland. It's owned by the same company as Cedar Point. That probably won't get open again this year. It wasn't open last year. Probably won't open again this year. I mean, so you're seeing, how come, other countries who've had to bring vaccines in, how come they're able to figure this out and they're able to start to live a normal life, and yet here we are still stuck in this endless shutdown cycle.
Our premier is trying to stick a round tube into a square hole.
Yeah.
And
pass the problem to somebody else. See, this is what they're doing. It gets very frustrating by that. I mean, if you live in an area where you guys are on lockdown too, or I'm sure you understand.
I'm going to say it like it is. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. To be stalled like we are.
Yeah, you feel stuck.
We're stuck.
Yeah.
And there's no forward momentum in any great stride.
Not here. Doesn't seem like it anyway.
His time has run its course. His time, really. The man needs,
It makes you want to people get elected. I mean, there's a lot of people who have, and I've seen it even on Facebook and other groups and stuff. People who did vote for him have said they won't vote for him again.
No.
Because it's like we're stuck in this endless shutdown.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't seem like anything has changed.
Nothing's. Yeah. It's just like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
We're just repeating the same damn thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I want out. Stop the movie. I want out. I'm done.
Yeah.
I've done my part. I've followed the rules.
Yeah.
I've done
over a year.
For over a year.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
I have not seen family in a year.
No. But they don't live in our cities. So
no.
That's one of the reasons why.
I have family that lives 3.5 hours away, and I have not seen them in a year because they didn't want us to travel.
Right.
And
it was mostly their request.
It was their request.
Yeah.
And I'm done. I'm
tired of not being able to do the fun thing. There's stuff we wanted to do.
Yeah.
We can celebrate our birthdays. Sure, a lot of you people have the same issue. I mean, Thanksgiving's, Christmas has all been altered for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of but it's like we said, you see for other places.
Yes.
Because the people are doing either what they're told or they're further ahead in the vaccination or all that kind of stuff. So their life is returning to normal.
Yes.
And it's not here. It's, and it's kind of like, oh, come on. Look to our neighbors to the south, look to our neighbors, or look to our allies in Europe or Australia or any of the others who are doing well because they've got a better vaccination program and all that. And look, their lives are slowly starting to go back to normal again. I mean, stop this foolishness of this endless crap that we've been under for better part of a year. And let's get to the point where we can be like them. It's taking too long.
Exactly. It's taking too dang long.
Yeah.
Too long. And we need to get it done. And it's either he's got to go or we need to get somebody to replace him.
Well, that's why there is calls for him to step down.
That has.
And get somebody in there who will actually get things done.
Oh, God.
Instead of lip service.
That's it.
And instead of, oh, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. Well, we're not really seeing it. So I don't see what do you mean you're doing this, you're doing that. I don't see it.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
It's like,
maybe we need to get somebody there who will actually do what they're going to do, and maybe we'll see some movement here.
It's like I want to see somebody that's going to actually roll up their proverbial sleeves and not stop until we get to where we should be.
I think the problem with a lot of politicians, they play politics too much. Instead of, oh, you do this and you do that. No, the liberals are so crazy and blah blah, and all the conservatives are so blah blah. Which I'm sure you've heard it. Instead of doing that, why don't you just work together and get through this crap?
Well, it's
and then so we can actually get back to life.
Well, it's like
because then we got to go through the recovery.
That's it. And
I take a while.
I made this joke to you the one time. I said I would rather vote for someone that went on the air and went on the news and said, "Listen, I'm not going to promise you a damn thing,
right?
Because we're in the crud,
right?
But I will say this: I will work as hard as I can for you,
right?
Yeah, and then show us by what he or she can achieve.
Yeah,
I would rather vote for someone that would be brutally honest.
Yeah. And actually not play politics.
Yeah.
Not tell you what you want to hear. Because half the time they don't deliver on it anyway.
No.
I mean, let's be honest. When does any party deliver on everything that they say they're going to do, even remotely? I mean, maybe one or two things, and that's it. I mean, they don't. I mean, let's face it, none of them do. So, I mean, instead of doing that, why not say, I'm not going to promise you I'm going to change the world, because they don't. Is I'm going to work hard to try to make what I can better.
I'm going to try
and be honest about it,
I'm going to try and fix this little situation.
Right. One thing at a time, or whatever. I mean, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do climate change. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." Well, they never do. So why lie about it?
And see, so this is kind of where Doug is now.
Right.
He's made these big statements, these bold promises.
Yeah.
And here we are a year later.
And nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Not really.
So personally, I would say to Mr. Ford, turn out the lights. Party's over. You're done. Walk away.
You take over.
There's a question.
That's the problem.
It's like
that ends up being the problem. Takes over. Is that being prime minister? I don't think she's any better.
Oh.
Sorry, but I think she's just as bad.
See that?
If not worse. So I mean, that's the thing. What do you do?
Do you stick with the devil you know or the devil you don't?
I don't think she's much different. So, but I mean, that's the thing. We're still a little ways out. But see, I unless things drastically change, I don't see him surviving this election.
He's not going
to. I don't. I just don't see it. I mean, we'll probably get a liberal back again.
There's just
it's back and forth, back and forth.
There's just too much negativity and too much vitriol about Ford. And
well, so that's what needs to stop. I kind of get sick of hearing it. I mean, there's some bad mouthing Trudeau, like politicians. I mean, like this, Trudeau this, or Ford this, or Andy Harwell that, or Stephen Zalik at this. I mean, would you freaking get off it and just get to work? I mean, what are you in high school? I mean, like it does. I mean, if you ever watch any of the Question Period thing, it's like watching these like the cool kids and like berating each different group. I mean, like, okay, enough already. Why don't you stick to the problem at hand and solve it?
That's it.
Like work together if you have to, because you're gonna have to. It's a majority government, I think. But I mean, including the federal level, why not just work together to solve? I mean, this is a big crisis here. I mean, there's a lot of businesses suffering, there's a lot of people dying from this. All this kind of stuff. Like, why not just work together to find a way to help these businesses like survive? And I'm not just talking the Walmarts that are going to be fine. I'm talking like the salons, the restaurants, and the small businesses, that kind of thing, that have been closed for almost a year and a half now. I mean, what about that? Or the kids who are struggling in school because they haven't been able to be in class at least here. I mean, other provinces they've been able to, I think, in school. But I mean, it's tough. So instead of you're this and you're that, forget that. And why don't you try to work together to come up with actual solutions.
It's like, okay.
To try to get through this quicker.
I'm sorry, but I feel like
other places have been able to do it. Why can't they?
I feel like we've landed in the Hunger Games. Like.
We're not killing each other yet.
No, but it's just that insane.
It seems like, yeah, because if you watch it on the news, right? I'm not saying watch CPAC. I mean, watching the news. I mean, it's like name calling. It's like, oh, forget that stupid stuff.
And do the work.
Just work the problem. Work together. I don't care if you like each other. Work together so that we can get through this. So that more of our businesses aren't shut, so the kids can go back to school. They don't lose their jobs.
That's it.
All that kind of stuff. Really, is it that hard to work together? Whether you agree or not, there has to be some kind of common ground here. And I think that's the main problem with parties.
Yes.
Too. With politics in general, it's too. Oh, we want this, and they just cater to their own base.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there's right. I'm not talking far right. Well, just far right too, and far left, whatever. But I mean, there's usually a common goal between all sides, no matter what you think or what you believe.
Of course.
So can't you work together for that?
Yeah.
Is that hard? Is that difficult to do?
Apparently. So, before we close, what do you think, what do you think is the Ford Nation sputtering to a stop?
I think unless he does something pretty drastic that kind of gets people back on the side again and kind of getting them to trust again, I think he's gonna have a hard time winning the next election. I do. I mean, like you said, there's some things he did we agree with and stuff like that. Not everything. But same with any party that gets elected. There's things you agree with and a lot you don't.
Yes.
Too, so, but I think he's gonna have a hard time because he has lost a lot of support, even from people who support him. They said they won't vote for him again. So unless he does something really, and he recognizes that fact, now I am maybe the end of road for him. What do you think?
I think he's believing his own hype. He's believing he's achieving what he's achieving, and when he's not achieving it, it's I'm pointing fingers. It's this, this, and this.
Yeah, it's this one's fault, that one's fault. But it's not. I mean, it's not the teachers' union that keep the school closed. No matter what they say, they don't have that kind of power.
No, because if the unions were keeping schools closed,
actually, a lot of teachers I've talked to actually schools open because they know it's easier. Like some kids just don't do well at home. It's not easy to learn online.
No,
I mean, I've taken online courses through university and stuff like that. It's not that easy to do, especially when you're a little kid.
Of course.
I mean, it's very difficult.
Oh,
no
question.
No, not all want it open because of the health issues. But why lie and say it's the teachers? It's not the teachers. You're just trying to get them on your side against the unions. A lot of them are very anti-union.
Yep.
So.
And admit your failure. He needs to admit his failures.
Right. Yeah, that would go a long way.
And that would be a big thing to be able to say, okay, I cocked it up.
Yeah.
I
mean, I will give him. He has backtracked on some things.
Of course.
He realized he was wrong. He has backtracked. I will give him that.
Yes.
But there's a lot of others. He needs to stop the blame game.
Yeah.
Instead of it's Trudeau's fault or Andrea Horwath's fault or whatever.
It's my fault.
Just say you're the premier.
Yeah.
The buck stops with you. So.
And that's something he's said. The decision, the buck stops with me.
Right. That act like it does.
Well, guess what, Dougie? the buck does stop with you.
Then act like it does.
Yeah.
Do something to change it. Do something. I don't know what you could do. I mean, I know with the vaccines, and I don't know if that might have had anything to do with it. I know he did contact, I think Joe Biden, with the president and stuff about trying to get more vaccines for Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are supposed to be getting some from the U.S. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, if it was Trudeau and Biden talking or not, or a combination of both. So he might have. I don't know. We're not privy to those conversations. But, so we'll give him that. I mean, he has done some things, but I mean, it's also frustrating because he's always passing it off when there is problems.
Exactly. So, there hasn't been enough good done lately to outweigh the bad behavior, the mismanagement. It's either he comes clean and admits the mistakes he's made
and works to
fix it, or make a clean break and step away.
I don't think he'll step down.
No.
A lot of people want him
to. So I'm going to say right now, I think he's stalled. He doesn't really have any positive momentum.
Not really.
So he's kind of stalled himself out, because he's going back to his old bag of tricks, his old song and dance.
Right. Yeah.
Stop with what you're going back to. Go take the stance that you did this first hit the ground. Be more proactive. Do and achieve what you said you're going to achieve. But I guess the writing's on the wall for Doug. We'll see what happens in the next little while.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's possible he can survive it, but at this present time, I don't think so.
Well,
he's got time for the next election,
time.
But who knows? I don't know. I don't see it.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming in and sitting in and talking about our premiere.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And you're very welcome, and I'm always glad to have you here. And we're always glad to have you guys here to hear our opinion.
Sometimes we hear your opinion too.
Exactly.
I like hearing your opinions.
And please tell us in the comment section below. Do you feel that our
if you're in Ontario,
if you're in Ontario, do you feel Premier Ford is doing a good job, a bad job, meh?
Yeah, he could be better.
He could be better. We'd like to know.
Or even if you're in a different province, what do you think of your premier? How are they doing? Or if you're in the States, what do you think how your state's doing, your governor? Or even if you're in Europe or another country, what do you think of your regional governments? Do you think they did a good job?
Because it's interesting for both of us to kind of see, okay, so their governor or their regional leaders are doing it this way. Right. Hey, that worked for them. Right. Would that work here?
Well, that's what we mean. That's what we're saying. How come this works here and it's not working here? I mean, maybe we can implement. I mean, obviously we don't have control over that, but why couldn't something that worked, in the States or in England or wherever, why couldn't something like that work here? It could work here if they actually implemented it.
So guys, we're going to close out the stream for this evening. Please tune in next week. I hope you will come back and we'll sit down and have
next chat.
Have another coffee chat. And guys, if you enjoyed the live stream, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a comment below and hit that notification bell. It's around here. Over there. And that will tell you every time me and Four Towers go live. Again, guys, thank you again. Please have a safe week. And we'll talk to you next time.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.